MLA In-Text Citations, Part 2. There are some special rules for quotations. First, there are two types of quotes, short quotes and long quotes. If a quotation is longer than 4 regular lines of text, then it is a long quote and must be written using block formatting. Block formatting means that the quotation starts on its own line and that the left margin for all lines of the quotation is indented 1/2 inch from the regular left margin. The right margin and the spacing of the paper stay the same. A couple of versions of MLA ago, block quotes were single-spaced, but that is no longer the case. Although block quotations do add length to the paper, be careful of using too many. That's a clear sign that you're just regurgitating research instead of using research to support your own ideas. Next, let's talk about double quotation marks versus single quotation marks. MLA says to always use double quote marks around a quotation. If the quotation has a portion that already uses double quote marks, then change that to single quote marks. So in this example, in the first sentence, air quotes is in double quote marks in the original. When it is quoted in your paper, the whole sentence goes into double quotation marks and the author's original double quote marks are changed to single quote marks. If you look closely, you'll see that this means that the end of the quote actually has 3 quotation marks together. Finally, when quoting someone, you also need to know how to use brackets and ellipses. Brackets are square-shaped parentheses. In quotations, brackets mean that you, the writer of the paper, have changed or added information to help clarify the quotation. Such changes or additions should be limited to giving a name after a confusing pronoun like he or they, or changing a verb's tense so that it fits with the rest of your sentence. Ellipses are the 3 dots pictured here. They indicate that you have left out information from the end or middle of a quotation. The info you leave out must not change the basic idea of the quotation as you are presenting it. In other words, you can't replace the word not with ellipses, because that would change I can not go to I can go, thereby altering the quotation's meaning completely. However, not all information in a quote is always necessary to the point you are making, and ellipses are a way of acknowledging that you're leaving info out, but that the missing words do not change the basic idea of the quotation. Whereas quoting is using someone's exact words, paraphrasing is using a source's ideas but putting them into your own words. Like quoting, you don't want your paper to be too heavy in paraphrasing because, again, that means that it's lacking in ideas that come directly from you. So how do you decide whether to quote or paraphrase? Ideally, you should do some of each in your paper, saving instances of quoting for especially powerful quotations or areas where technical language or jargon might make it hard for you to summarize in your own words. A good rule of thumb is that your paraphrase should contain no more than 3 words in a row from the source, and even then, 3-word phrases should be sparse in your rephrasing of the source's ideas. Like direct quotations, all paraphrased passages must give credit to the original source through in-text citations. That being said, we need to turn our attention to a practice called patch writing. Patch writing is when you copy a source and then go in and change a few words and phrases so that it is not a direct quotation. At this point, you may be thinking, but how is that different from paraphrasing? The answer is that patch writing is a much more direct use of not only the source's ideas and/or words, but of how the source presented the idea. Consider this example. On the left is a direct quotation about plagiarism from the MLA Handbook, 7th edition. In the middle is what patch writing looks like. Note how, even though the writer credits the source, he or she is still presenting the words as his or her own, even though they very closely resemble the original. Patch writing can be done with or without giving any credit, although in both cases it is wrong. On the right is an example of how one might paraphrase the passage appropriately. Go ahead and pause the video while you read these examples more closely. Once you finish, we'll move on to part 3.